Hello,
World, we are here.
the Discipline of Joy, episode 133.
And where are we going to do that on?
A Wonderful Chaos.
And we like it that way. Da, da, da.
We actually didn't say the name of the guest, Andy.
I like it.
That way. So today we have someone who's close to me, and that's Jennifer Ann.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say close to me, she's like someone that we cross paths a couple of times a year,
Okay.
and it's always good. Like and she's come for a photo shoot. She's an amazing singer, so I've seen her perform.
Okay.
And what always impressed me is that she's always glowing, even if she feels like shit. There's a kind of glow
Nice.
that I witness
Mhm.
and feel. And you know me, I'll sense fake smiles
Sure.
a mile away, and I'll feel contracted, and I'll be repulsed.
Mm-hmm.
So why this? Andy's actually giving me a chance to do the intro.
No, don't say chance. I challenged you.
He challenged
to step up.
And he says, I challenge you, and this is a test. So
if you fail, you're never doing it again.
So in my life, guys, as many of you know from watching the shows, where's Budalang today?
I know, Bulalang, join us.
I suffered from a lot of depression. I've had 5 suicide attempts in my life. And touching joy and happiness in my life, like, seemed to be a very foreign thing to me. And until I started surrounding myself with people that were living in that way, and I started to get the reference as to what joy feels like. And in my own life in these times, I have a set of rituals which ground me into that experience, and it's a daily thing. And on today's show, we're getting to talk to someone that's pretty embodied in that way, and I'm also sitting next to someone who's also embodies that. So we're gonna discuss that.
Nice. I like that.
Thank you. How are you, Andy, today?
I'm good. I had a funny talk with Ronnie earlier.
Are you getting divorced?
Not yet.
Are you pregnant?
No, not yet.
I don't care then.
By the way, any love interest between you and Jennifer Ann before she comes on? Have you ever felt that like maybe it could be more between the two of you?
No, but there's definitely love there, and I would say the love, at least I experience for her, is detached. It's just I love this person.
Good. Well, let's see if we can make that more during the show.
Thank
I'll see
you.
if I can help support that. I talked to Ronnie, had a very interesting talk. What I noticed, it was really kind of, I've noticed it a lot, and I just thought it was really funny to reflect on it as it was happening, was that I've been feeling a bit weaker. It often happens when the change of season comes in the Netherlands and it's darker, the days are darker. I'll often feel a little bit weaker, and my system gets a bit more susceptible just to general cold, not really flu-like symptoms, but just feeling a little bit like my system is a bit run down.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in bed, and I was like meditating on how fascinating it is that everything that I perceive, if it's framed from being tired, it's a wholly different experience than if it's framed from having energy. So I have like 3 things, not really big deals I need to do. But when I'm tired, those 3 things seem like the biggest pain in the butt.
Okay.
But as soon as I get my sleep, it's like, oh, cool. And what more can I do? And I know everyone has that experience, of course, but I was just feeling into how quickly, like, you might feel like, wow, I'm getting so much done and I could do 20 more things. And then the next day you're like, wow, I've got those 3 things, which would maybe take you 10 minutes in the day, but they seem like such big deals because you just don't have the motivation. And it obviously will go into our talk today.
Yeah.
Because in a way, I also see how I've addressed it in my own life, is having a discipline around not letting my thoughts go off and like acting like they're in control.
Yeah.
Thoughts are the thoughts. How I allow that to permeate my being is a whole nother thing, right?
Like I've never really seen you having a discipline. It's like when I look at you, Andy, it always feels that it's so effortless for you. I don't see you, I'm gonna get up and meditate in case I get off the rails, or like, or you've really integrated in a way, but I don't hear you really talking about these are my rituals, these are things that I
No.
do.
But what I mean to say is I see a tendency, and whenever so it's almost like I feel like I was living a horrible life. I had, of course, from an outside perspective, success, financial success. I was dating and had whatever. I was healthy. So from the outside perspective, it looked as if I was living this dream life. To some, who knows? A lot of would have seen through it. But when I decided that I was going to not accept mediocrity in terms of how I was feeling, that was, again, say a 10, 15-year journey.
Yeah.
And the discipline came in was like saying, okay, nothing that doesn't bring me joy is allowed in anymore, which meant that a lot of shit that came in through the back door from the last 40 years had to be dealt with. It wasn't like you clean your closet out. Like the closet cleaning takes some time.
Yeah.
So some friends just, they migrated away from me because they're like, whoever Andy was before, I don't really like him now. So I'm not going to spend that much time with him. That was a natural process. So I guess I made my side of the street really clean.
I'd love to bring some of these people into the show.
I don't talk to them anymore. I remember like one of the saddest moments for me was after I left Vienna. I spent 3 or 4 years making sort of a training program and trying to just show. I wanted to show these people back in Vienna, where I'd lived for 10 years, what I'd done with my colleague, my mentor Case.
Yeah.
I went back and I really wanted them to see it, not to sell them anything, but say, guys, look this is why I left. This is what I had done. And they outright rejected it in a way that was so kind of hurtful, because they were like, Andy, don't sell me your training. And it was like, it felt like a child adult relationship. Like I wanted, in their ways, a validation for what I'd achieved, so that they could see I wasn't just leaving Vienna to go to nothing. I was leaving to try to create and do something special in the world. And I wanted to share that with them. And so when they outright rejected it, saying that they felt manipulated, which they were manipulated, because I honestly wanted them there. They just didn't understand the intention was through love and not through, I need anything else from you other than just to share what I achieved. So those people sort of dropped off. And it's been okay.
It sounds painful. Jesus.
It hurt because I love those people. And I realize when you begin to focus on your own joy, like there is a consequence,
I'm smiling because as you're talking, I think it's a great point
segue
to bring this angel.
Nice. Hello.
The one, the only, the legend.
Hey, hello. Oh, wow.
You're
That's an
there.
introduction. I am. I'm here.
Yeah.
And you are here as well. Amazing. You guys, it seems like you guys were getting so deep into the conversation, like I almost wasn't needed anymore.
Well, we always like to frame it a little bit, because in some ways we want to be with people in a subject matter rather than bring any authority in. So in some ways it's all us sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sharing, and it's also very, very helpful to share these stories with people, because I think, I have this feeling also, this is probably what the podcast is about. It's like to share these stories to the world, to inspire people. Is that correct? What I'm sensing?
I would say no.
No. Then please explain to me.
Do you want to talk about something totally whatever random subject, and we'd probably discuss that just as easily as whatever we thought we were going to talk about?
Nice. Okay.
You get the joy of being who you get to be at this moment, even if we decided to something, before.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's random.
Andy said something really funny the other day. It's like, our viewers are actually people that don't need anything from the world anymore. It's like, sorry, Bulalang, old people who are comfortable in their skin, and they're not trying to be their being. So if you think about it, he told me, that's just like a handful of people.
We've got a handful of viewers who really like to be around people who just like being.
So Andy was making a joke like, oh, so if we would do the 5 steps to the discipline of joy, do these 5 things every day for 30 days, and you'll be
And
like me. And here's my
that's
book, and here's the links, and here's how much
Yeah.
it costs.
and that's interesting because you asked me the question after the photo shoot. So, what would the name of the book be that you would write? And in that moment, I was actually writing down some names of what would I write on. And then a few days before you asked me that question, I wrote down the discipline of joy.
Mm.
Nothing really came from it just yet. um, and I think it's already like transforming into something else. But at the same time, like I can really relate to the stories that you were sharing about your life, going through difficult times and not really understanding what real joy and happiness is. And in a way, I also feel the words of like discipline and joy, in a way, they don't go together. They're like a contradiction. But at the same time, it's like training your mind, like with anything you do in life. When you do it, when you put effort into it, it grows. And it doesn't matter if it's joy or if it's negativity or whatever, but it grows. And so, and I guess I wrote that down in a way to understand myself, that it has been or it had become a discipline of going from like this negative mindset and reality, and then really focusing on the things that bring beauty and bring joy and happiness and expansion into my life. And I'm not sure if I'm actually going to write that book, but that's how it came. Yeah, it came, how the topic actually came. And it is something that is really relevant currently in my life as well. So,
And so when you look at the progress or the process from, I would almost say, from whatever childhood joy felt like to whatever got in the way, because all of a sudden we started taking this stuff so seriously. So what happened to the point when you said, oh, now I know or see I need to do certain things to connect back to what that childhood joy was? Like what did that journey look like for you?
That's such a beautiful question to ask. And I think like every human being goes through it. Like we lose just this childhood joy that you're speaking about. And I think it's also part of becoming an adult in a way. And it's so programmed through what we learn in society that we have to like put away our childhood joy, the childishness, the fascination, the discovery, the adventure, to become like a proper member of society and do all the things that we need to do. And then at some point you just discover like, oh my God, that's really not what it's about. Life is about like sitting in the sun and, doing something that brings me joy, and having good foods and good people around me, and all that types of things that really feed the soul. And from that feeding the soul, something new comes into existence that's being born from the inside out rather than from the outside in and then again out. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does. But let's slow that down. Let's go there because that could probably encapsulate the whole show. And you stated it so quickly that some people would say, "Oh yeah, it all makes sense to me," and some other would
Bye,
say,
see
"What
you
the hell
later."
is she talking about?" So when we talk about joy or happiness, right? Because those two can also be confused. It'd be nice to maybe hear your distinction there. Like when we look outside of ourselves and trying to figure out what brings us joy, how would you explain that process, and how would it be different than the journey inward? How would you distinguish those two?
Thinking about how to distinguish that. Because also the original question that you asked me came up at the same time of
Beautiful.
what the journey was
Yeah,
from
maybe
childhood.
we didn't finish that one yet. Let's continue on that one maybe before we
Shall I
jump to the
answer
next
that
one.
first
Yeah,
and then go
please.
this? Because this is a really good question, and I think it's super helpful to discuss it as well. But yeah, it goes back to like the childhood thing. I think we all lose that joy, that childhood fascination, joy, happiness, and it comes from what we're programmed through the like society that we're in. It's the school, the teachers, our parents, and all these ideas that we come from. At the moment, I'm also really discovering how we're programmed through our ancestors. This new album that I'm creating is also called We Are the Ancestors. And as I'm going into that journey, like all these things are opening up around ancestors and how we are products from our past, and that we can make a conscious choice that we are creators in this moment. And actually, I think when I really accepted that I am a creator in this reality and in these times, and that it's a very specific time that we're alive in, where I think there's also more support. Like there's a collective now of people that are waking up to this realization and acceptance of everything that came before made us to what we are in this moment. And I'm really okay with it. And at the same time, as I'm coming into acceptance of that, I understand that now I have a choice. And for me, like understanding that I had that choice and that I could actually change what I was choosing, then I also understood, okay, but if I have a choice in what I want to choose, then what is the feeling that I want to choose from? And then I was really becoming aware of how often I was choosing things from negativity and from this programming from the past, to just running the same programming over and over and over again. And then I said, but okay, if I'm choosing to create from this energy, this negativity, what's coming forward from this? Okay, it's more of that.
Wow.
And so then I actually really had to go back to ask myself, what brings me joy? What makes me happy? What do I really, really like? And actually down to the simplest things, like which movies, which colors do I enjoy? How do I want my skin to feel, or what products, or, just which flavors do I really enjoy, and not always being in the super
She
hard
smells good.
discipline. I do. I just showered.
Jennifer, I have a question. What was you spoke about like these patterns? And what can you be a bit more specific? What was the thing that you were saying no to?
Yeah, get juicy. Tell us your dysfunction.
So how long is this show?
Don't worry, if you go too long, we'll interrupt you.
Okay,
Politely
good.
and joyfully.
Oh gosh. So many things, but what it was a really, really strong one for me was having a negative thoughts about myself, not feeling worthy. And very interestingly, like to make it more concrete, like because I'm an artist and I really had to grow into that. So I had to get over all of these insecurities. And when I was, from like 16 to about 18, I just had this, like, I was really obese. So I was like over 100 kilos, and I'm only 1 meter 70 centimeters. So I'm not that tall. And so I was really, really big, and I was always super aware of that everybody was looking at me. And then somehow it's a whole story by itself, but I got into theater, and then I was getting on stage, and then people were actually looking at me, and I started to cry every time I was on a stage, or every time I had to speak in front of people, or even then when it transformed into music, like the first time that I played in front of people, I was crying every time, because there was just such a deep, deep feeling of being inadequate, of not being pretty enough to be in front of people, not worthy enough, that my voice wasn't good enough. Who am I to say anything in this world? Other people are always better. And I think that might be the biggest and the deepest pattern. And it goes and it reflects on everything, like body image, what to wear, how to act, like all these things. Inadequacy, feeling unworthy. That brought me to some deep places in this life. Yeah.
It even sounds like, at least I can feel it in myself when I feel how painful it is to live in that space of not fully loving and embracing all parts of yourself. But actually, that also gives you the contrast you need to fully be in the joy.
Very true. Yeah.
Don't go too fast there, Bambos. I'm sitting with that whole picture now. Still, it's what you shared is hard for me to process. Let's just say that. Yeah. If you were in a physical state where you didn't feel body image was totally judged, and then you're in a stage where that's exactly what the purpose is for you to be the center of the attention, the whole story just makes me collapse inside, like almost like you were punishing yourself in a weird way. Like,
yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, looking back, yes.
Wow.
yeah.
And it's weird, because I think this is super relevant, and especially in these times with the younger generations, where they get so much, images and just input from social media, where it's all about perfection and all these filters to look nicer and have bigger eyes and clearer skin, and it's like, so what is reality still? Yeah, and at the same time, what Bambus already touched upon, because of my experiences, I do understand that became the strength and the medicine of what I bring into life right now. And specifically of working with the voice. In the voice, nothing can be masked. You can hear the intonation, you can feel the frequencies that are coming through the voice. So when I sing, that whole journey is in that voice up until now. So yeah, when I speak about it, maybe it's interesting to hear, but I think it's also really relevant to speak about it and not to be a victim of it, but more that I know where I've been through, and I know because of that, I know that we're all capable to get through it in a way, and yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess the alluding to where Bambos and you were speaking to is that the paradox in life is that the thing that brings you the most pain is exactly the thing that by going into it and loving that all of a sudden you get joy again. And that's the thing, is that Netflix or whatever avoidant qualities one has to move away from the thing that they don't is exactly which creates more and more separation. So I think anyone going through the journey would all come to that discovery, was that, wow, how do I not move away from what makes me uncomfortable, but lean into it to the point where I see it becomes my strength and not the weakness that one might have judged. Yeah.
Well, that's super relevant what you're saying there. That's bringing up a story also, because that might be the time where it really changed for me, actually, when I did my first yoga training, which was a Kundalini yoga training, and they do pretty extreme stuff there. Like, just as an example, to hold your arms out like this or like fly, and if you just do this for like a minute, you can really feel the burn. But then they'll do it like for 12 or 15 minutes, and then they'll also make you chant or do like a really strong breath of fire, and it was super extreme. But that actually broke my mind. Yeah. Literally, like, because they would keep saying like, it's just the mind that's telling you that you cannot do it. The body is capable, and go through it and breathe through it. And it's behind the wall where the sweet spot is. And I was young when I did that training. And I think that was a really pivotal experience, actually, for me to understand that I was capable to do something more than my mind was telling me, which was actually like Netflix and other stuff, like videos and yeah.
Like where you are right now, do you still catch yourself like reaching for a remote control, or maybe even more YouTube things like TEDx, like something more educational, but actually can also be used to avoid feeling what needs to be felt?
Let's see. I think because I still love movies, I still love series, and I actually lately, and I've been actually watching these things that have been bringing me a lot of joy, which has been like these America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent and the X Factor, like these really.
By the way, When you were about 5 minutes ago, when you told the story of hearing the story in the person's voice through the modulation, all I heard was all those shows. So that's what I heard when you were describing this. So please continue.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think so much. It's not about like watching the videos or watching Netflix or the movies, but it's about what you actually just touched upon, Bumbus. It's about how do we use it? Like for me, sometimes when I watch these things, it's really relaxing, and I feel really inspired. You know, like I see these people getting like the success, and I'm just like, wow, look at them and good for them. And I feel really happy. And when I feel happy, that's what it's about. And it's not so much anymore about how I get there, as long as it does bring me that happiness. So I've been going beyond the judgment. So I can, and another thing, like I love Friends, for example, the series. I just love to watch it. And I think I've maybe watched it 10 times in my life, or even more often. But when I'm feeling or getting to this point that I feel really down or emotional, it's like, no, I just need to tune out a little bit, just relax. I just
Harry
put
Potter.
Friends on.
For me,
Harry Potter is yours.
I could watch Harry Potter like 100 times. I don't even care what they say. It's just my mind wanders in that childhood state.
I have to admit, Britain's Got Talent. And if you go to my laptop and you look at what I'm searching for, it's like emotional moments of Britain's Got Talent or whatever. And I'll watch something and it will make me cry. And then I feel like I might even watch like 1 minute of it. And then it's enough to bring tears to my eyes. I'm like, why am I crying?
So what do the tears bring you then? What is it that you need to cry?
Oh, like it touches, like when I see someone or witness someone who hasn't believed in themselves their whole life, and then they get on that stage and you can see that it's like so difficult for them to be there unless they're really good actors, right? And then they rip out this voice and I feel it in my body, like that just releases the tears. Because I can also tune into where that has been true in my life, where I haven't believed in myself, and it gives me the courage to keep going on.
Nice. That's very similar to how I feel when I watch these videos.
I have a theory about singers.
They're good lovers.
They're good lovers, and
how do you know that?
I don't know. I remember I took singing classes, and when I sang, I just felt my organs getting massaged. And then I was like, we've interviewed a few singers, right? Also an opera singer. And in a way, I've seen like a little pattern, but I'm not even sure if I'm right. But somehow the singing vibrates in the organs, and the organs where we hold all those emotions. So somewhere it just gets released. And like, singers are in general happy people because unless they are a rock star taking drugs and then numb it out and kill themselves.
Exactly. I was just thinking.
Also a little bit about America or Britain's Got Talent. You'll often hear a story like a year later, like someone committed suicide. So there is this aspect of
I don't watch that part.
Like unprepared recognition without the foundation to deal with it is also potentially problematic, right?
Yeah, and that part's not about the singing anymore. Also,
exactly.
And that's actually been a big part of why I kept quiet very long with being in front of a public, because I felt like I was in no way ready to deal with any type of pressure of people wanting me to do anything. And I wanted to stay very authentic. Maybe we'll get to share more about that journey, how that came to existence. But to go back to that part that Bambus is talking about what you felt in your organs, it's actually really easy to explain what's going on, because everything is vibration. And now with technology, it's really easy also to prove it in that sense, that they know that when we're thinking something, it's a frequency, and people can actually hear it, but they cannot hear it with their physical ears because it's in a lower vibration than what we can hear with our ears, yet we can feel it. And this is where, for example, when you think about somebody and then they call you, it's like the wave is already hitting you, and then you're picking up on it in the atmosphere. And this is also why you can feel, what's going on in room, all these things. And these times are definitely opening up a lot more. But then also when we're singing, the intention is very important. And I've been studying a lot with ancient traditions. And when I ask them, so what's the most important thing for creation? And they would say intention. It doesn't actually matter what you do, but it's about the intention.
Mm.
And I just like, that made me think for like many, many years, like, what do they mean? Because it's been like more than 10 years ago when the first person told me about this. And I think now that I'm getting what it is, because the thoughts are the frequency, and this is what we're sending out. And then when we have like voice coming out, it's really like you can really send it out like a beam, like a really focused energy. But then there's another part to it that they also know that water now can hold frequencies. So I don't know if you heard about Emoto, this Japanese scientist who influenced water and then froze it and then made pictures of the crystals of the frequencies of the intentions that were in the water. And were made of mainly water. So then when you put that together, when you're singing and you're having a harmonious frequency in that sense, you're harmonizing your body. And then the breath is, how do you say? Yeah, the breath is the carrier of sound, and breath goes everywhere in the body. So it's going to all your cells. So then if there's something that needs to come out, you can let it out. So that's like a healing practice in itself, breathing as well, but singing actually puts more strength into that. So there's probably more to say about this, but this is kind of like a shorter way to bring this together. And yeah, for me, it's been super healing. That was a big, big change in my life once I started singing. Yeah. Did that make any sense, what I just said, by the way?
Totally.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, we're quietly taking it.
Yeah.
I think we digest more than do the talk show thing. Like, oh, tell me, what do you know? We're more like, wow, I can sense that. Like when we don't sense it, we tend to react differently.
Yeah.
Okay, because I just wanted to check, because if
Like,
you
okay,
guys
let's
didn't
move
get
on
it,
to another subject. We got something else to talk. By the way, I do have another subject I'd like to talk about, but I thought Bambos had a question. So
Well, I don't have a question. A few days ago, I woke up and I really felt a bit paralyzed in bed. And when you were talking about the breath, I have as you know, or many people know, I do ice baths every day. And this specific morning, I just didn't want to show up into the world. Like it was that edge of, I don't want to be alive. And I took my phone app and I started doing the Wim Hof breathing, and just that first breath really took me into where I need to be. And actually I did like 10 minutes of this. The beginning was a bit of resistance, but I could feel the benefits. And then when I sat in the ice water, I actually took my phone to make a picture, and I just had this big smile on my face. And I was like, fuck, this is like magic.
Yeah.
So just like I could even imagine now singing, but at 5 o'clock in the morning to sing in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Wake up my neighbors.
Make a lot of friends that way, I'm sure.
Yeah. So
I might have I don't know if the question is relevant, but when you were speaking about not wanting to breathe, and maybe this is going into a way different direction than you guys went, but do you know anything about being born, and if there was a hesitation in your first breath when you were born?
I don't know.
Curious. No, don't have no clue.
No.
Because they say that like the first breath that we take as a child is like the full potential. And now when we do these like rebirthing techniques that we're breathing in and out through the mouth, when we start to do that in like a continuous amount of time, that's a way to also renew the organs.
Yeah.
because it's mimicking when we breathe in the first breath of life, it activates all of the organs because it's like the first breath that then brings the oxygen. And yeah, the oxygen is what we live on mainly. So that brings that into the organs. So a lot of the things can be brought back, like traumatic things that we experience. It can be brought back to when we were being carried by our mothers and then when we were born. And this is not to judge any mother or all of that. It's really not what it's about, because that's the ancestral lineage that everybody has gotten. But it can, for me, it's been really helpful to look into these things and like to talk to my parents about it. And then understanding a little bit more of certain things I was dealing with in life, and then being a little bit more gentle on myself as well.
Nice. I have a question going back to joy again. And
Take it away, Andy.
Hooray.
I remember when because I was in my corporate life very unhappy, and it like the drip of moving away from what I thought going into adulthood, let's say the drip of adulthood took me away from even the memory of what joy felt like. And then I started doing the trainings where I was my first step of finally like opening myself up, but I didn't even know that I was opening myself up to joy at that moment. I just knew I wasn't happy. And what happened in one of the earlier trainings was like, it was a sort of an out of body experience, because it was as if my current body couldn't begin to fathom the reality of the child Andy who knew joy. So there was as if I almost catapulted out of my own body and felt the childhood joy that was non-existent in the current whatever the frame I was in at that moment. And it was shocking to me, because at that point I would have been, I don't know, 35. And I not only forgot, my current state was I didn't even know it existed. That's how far away it was. It wasn't as if it was a long-term memory. It was like that never existed in my life. So to go back to, and I use the word childhood joy, not joy, because childhood joy was the feeling of the 3, 4, 5-year-old that had absolutely no worry in the world because everything was perfect and everything was taken care of. I didn't need to worry about taxes. I didn't need to worry about housing or a mortgage or a car payment or whatever it was, or people not liking me. You know, at that point, it was just like, every time I reach up, mommy helps, you know, like there was like that feeling was something so foreign to me that to allow that in again was a shock at 35. Yeah. And so I said all that in a way to also say, is there a moment for you? Because that was my experience having forgotten it. Was there a moment for you when you also recalled, oh shit, there is this thing, joy, that existed in my life at some point? Do you have that, or is that?
We have different childhood.
Yeah.
I still don't know what joy is.
I'm jealous.
I didn't have a 3-year-old joy. I didn't have any joy.
No, but I do. Yeah, I can really relate to that. And I'm just like, as you're speaking, like my own memories are coming up and how joyful we can be as a child. And there's still sometimes like these little snippets come back of being very young. And it's not even that I really have memories, but it's more of like a feeling. And like also a longing, because that's also what I was hearing in your story. Like there's a longing because we know that it exists, yet we can never really go back to it. So we can only use it as like a resource of when we don't know, or we think that we forget about what joy is, then we can go back to a certain memory. And that's something that you could, I guess, call a resource. And I've noticed that more and more of those memories have opened up once I took the conscious step into stepping into that journey. And also, I was able, and I'm still going through this process, it feels like, but letting go of the very horrible stories. Yes, they're there, but as you keep repeating them, that also becomes like the thing that you keep holding as a vibration in your system. So somehow that needs to be best. I think the best thing is to swap it out in a way, because you can just throw it away, but then there's emptiness, and then you have to deal with the emptiness, and then you can get scared or something else can happen. So yeah, it's like it reminds me of a story. Yeah, it's a fun story to tell. I was in the Himalayas in 2014, and I did a training in an ashram there, and I just really wanted to go to the Himalayas and go to McLeodganj to go to the temple of the Dalai Lama. That was like a really big dream. I wanted to say a childhood dream, but it kind of was, because it's a big longing to go there. But there were no teachings. He wasn't going to appear anywhere. So yeah, so I was really disappointed. And then I just at some point decided, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go there. I'm just going to book the flight. I'm going to go. And then I went, I booked the flight. A few days before I left, magically, there was this group from, what was it? I think Kazakhstan, that ordered to have these teachings from the Dalai Lama, and they agreed to it. And it was the renewal of the vows to the Buddhism. And it started on my birthday until like, I think the 6th. So my birthday's on the 2nd of December. So like a few days before I went, I got all excited because all of a sudden, like everything was coming together. There's that in itself, like that was a whole journey and story. But the reason why I'm telling this is that at some point I was in the main halls, and I was sitting way in the back with all of these nuns, these younger nuns, these women. And I just learned something during my time at the ashram, that because we would get like some type of milk drink and some bread in the morning. Everybody would get that, but there were monkeys everywhere. And okay, I'm getting kind of lost because all these memories are flooding. But what happened was that the monkeys also took, I think it was a hat from something that was valuable to one of the nuns. So then I just learned this trick of if you want something back from the monkeys, you have to give them something else. So I took my bread and I took a piece from that, and I gave that to the monkey, and I got back this thing that was really valuable from the nun. And they were really scared for some reason. And I just learned that trick, and I got it back, and then I was able to give that back. And the nuns were very thankful. But I turned around while I was doing that. And at that point, actually, the monkey stole the rest of the bread that I had for my friends I was keeping there. So then I turned around, and all my bread was gone actually at that point. And then obviously the nuns they shared their bread. So anyways, it reminds me of that we can swap it, and then we can get something back, and we can carry on with things. I don't know if this story is actually relevant, but it came back into my mind. It was such a beautiful experience.
I kind of lost the start of it. What are we swapping, just to help me get a reference?
Oh,
I can't remember what.
We're holding on,
something
like,
that
to your childhood story.
Oh yeah,
trauma.
Yeah.
That. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think
so
that's the or in other terminology that someone might use, how are you framing the situation you're in? Is once you swap out the frame, then all of a sudden you might be in the exact same situation, but experience it in a wholly different way. Of course. Yeah.
So I want to jump to something else.
No, I'm still here, Bambos.
No, I want to jump to something else, Andy. I wasn't asking permission.
I love it.
Joy and happiness. What is the distinction in your? How do you feel those two words in your body? I don't care about your intellect.
I don't think I've ever answered this question very specifically. But it feels like happiness is a state of being where it just is. And joy is more like something that's moving, a moving energy. Like I can feel this expansion, like this action almost, like, oh, joy. And I think about all these things that bring me joy. And it feels like it's something that I'm doing or creating in a way. And happiness, it's just like, it's just there.
I have the exact opposite. So
okay, what's your definition?
The same experience, but I would
Mm-hmm.
swap the words in how I would feel it. So exactly as you described it, but just the words would be swapped. It's very
That's
interesting.
interesting. Would that also have to do maybe with male and female energy? Just wondering.
It could be. Yeah, possibly.
I don't know.
I guess happiness I've associated sometimes with like this outward experience, and joy was more emergent, where you obviously in your description had the transverse, at least
Yeah.
how I understood it, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
Yeah, for sure.
I kind of think like I don't decide joy, it kind of emerges, but happiness I can kind of go to Disneyland. And that's kind of the way the
Yeah.
simple breakdown feel to it. Yeah. But it doesn't really
How is
matter.
that for you, Bambus?
Yeah, how is it for you?
Well,
I was going to say I don't know if he's ever felt joy, because I wanted to get back to this question with him. Do
Okay.
you know joy, Bambus? Because when we spoke earlier and I looked at your face, it was almost like we were discussing something. I was really curious. Is that something you feel like you have a reference for in your life?
yeah, I'm really looking for things. As if I really go back into childhood, but if it's, I mean, the joy of making connected love or being of service to someone. But these are new how to put them, new references. Like recently, or a few days ago again, I gave a guy outside the supermarket 20 euros, and I saw the shine in his eyes, but I can't per se, like I didn't feel that I made a big difference in their life. So I couldn't really tune into the same joy that he was feeling, but I saw it in his eyes and I recognized it. So the fact that I could recognize that in someone else, I knew I've had it, but I just can't place it in terms of a very clean, clear story. I think in general, I feel some stuckness in this moment as I'm sharing this, but the way the environment I was raised in, there was a lot of negativity, like from both parents and family beyond. And there were all these layers of stories and blaming and not so much safety, like even manipulation playing in a way. And as a child to experience that, I shut down. And I sometimes feel like as a vibration, we talked about ancestral, that I'm up against, like I get up really early in the morning to put myself through these rituals because I feel I'm carrying all that stuff with me. And sometimes during my training, I'll be crying like at 5 a.m. And I've just learned to let the tears out and not try to rationalize them and just allow them to be there. And I see that as beautiful. I experience the beauty in that moment. And yeah, full stop.
Could you call that joy?
Yeah.
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 I'd call that joy in my framing.
You know where I feel it the most? If it's raining and I allow the rain to touch my body and I'm not running away from it and I'm not trying to make myself warm, and I just, in the morning, I just let the water land on my body, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You're touching upon such an important part of, I think, also what entails joy, because now, because of your story, it's allowing me to look into another direction of joy. That joy is not only about sunshine and rainbows and fairy tale stories, but that joy can be born from the depths of our soul and from the dungeons of our like horrible stories in a way,
Well, put it this way, Jennifer. In the morning, I'll be just in my shorts. It's dark, so no one's going to see me being without a t-shirt. So you have strong winds. There'll be rain, and it's pretty fucking cold. But I've been training myself to receive that cold with love, and to some degree, I can feel the benefits. I'm not really getting sick. I feel energized, but I'm not shutting a part of myself down to deal with that. I'm allowing it to. It's almost like a massage, and I can feel the aliveness of it. And it's like I'm discovering something that not many people get to touch on. And I do this on a daily basis, and it's beautiful.
Mm.
The joy you described just a moment ago is closer to the joy that I feel like I experience today. So the joy that I experience is usually connected to tears.
Mm.
That's how I would at least describe it for me. It's almost like letting go of everything, and the emergence is tears, and they're not tears of sadness. It's almost like tears of beauty. It's like an overwhelm of beauty that brings tears.
Or America's Got Talent.
Yeah. Someone manipulating your heartstrings.
And
That's
just also
good.
this question. Oh, sorry. This
No, go
question was also it's coming up like, is there also like a sense of proudness in this practice? And is the proudness then a gateway, maybe to joy or happiness?
The word proudness.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit help understand, because I don't understand the question. Is there a proudness in?
Well, maybe the word proud is not the right description of it. But as I was listening to you, it made me feel good. And I translated that into proudness. But I guess the simplification of that, or a more correct way to ask it, does it make you feel good?
The word love comes up.
And what does love mean to you?
When you ask me that question, I see. Let me see if I can just answer it. Love means to me that even when I'm interacting with someone and I see that I'm having a challenge to love that part of themselves, I'm having a challenge to love something that they're showing me, that I can find that in me and be okay with me not being okay with in that moment. So it's an embrace of the moment. I used to judge myself for judging myself. And it's really evolved through doing this podcast, because the way we run this show, there's a lot of surrender. There's a lot of, you can be you and I can be me. And we cry on the show and we celebrate, and I can be shut down. Andy will lovingly be my mirror. I'll open up. And it's just being this constant, like being next to this guy every day. There's just so much love coming this way. It's just beautiful and feel very blessed. And it's being one of when Andy would ask me, do you want to do the show? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you might not see it, but every time I leave the show and I go home, there's this movement in me. And the movement is just touching me in places which it's just being a self-discovery. So thank you.
I want to
It's
sing.
so nice.
I want to sing Fiddler on the Roof.
Don't sing. You know, what's his name? Jay.
Oh, Jay Shetty?
Yeah, Jay Shetty. He said something really nice on in his book, Living Like a Monk. He said, when one door of happiness closes, another one opens. But the problem is most of the time we stay focused on the door that's closed and we don't see the door that opens.
Yeah. Yeah.
That really stuck with me for a few days now.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend whose best friend died, and she hasn't been able to find peace with that. And she's come to Amsterdam. She's went back to Italy, and even changing location, of course, doesn't really help because you're taking yourself with you. And yeah, I kind of sent her this in a way of, we can celebrate and mourn the person's death, and can we find also the light now? But in no way do I want her to be happy, but it's the stagnation that I feel in me with her. That's painful in my body.
Yeah, we need to keep the movement going. And before we go on, I just really want to thank you guys for sharing this brotherhood and for also expressing it in the way that you guys do. It's a really relevant and important to feel this and to bring this into the world. And obviously for me as being a woman, I can feel this in sisterhood, and it feels so important because it also connects back into this childhood where we just had friends and we had everything was like safe, and well, not everything, but there was like a childhood way of relating to others, which is also when you grow up, it brings in all these layers and these different things. And I just feel this, like this really kind and gentle brotherhood between both of you. And it's really beautiful to witness that. So thank you.
I have to start calling you brother instead of dad.
Yeah, he always calls me dad. The desire. I was the dad that he wished he had.
That's also a type of brotherhood.
Sure. I'm turning into that a lot. When I turned 50, I noticed that everyone whose father died, they're starting to call me now. So
I get the same.
I've got like a Rolodex of people whose dead fathers. They're needing someone with that fatherly mentoring love. So I've seen that's happened crossing 50.
Wow.
I had several points, but I don't think we're going to make them with 3 minutes left on the show. I would like to summarize a few things you said, though, earlier on that we didn't talk about.
Sure.
You said something that was really, I brought up on the show a few times, but never in the context of joy. But when you said it, it immediately connected for me. And it's the following, is that I noticed that my life has been avoidance of pain from my dad being abusive. I was scared of everything. So my mind was primed to avoid anything that would trigger him or cause pain. So you spoke to that earlier. And then what I noticed, and it took me some discipline, was to shift it to the seeking pleasure. And I've often associated that because I do a lot of leadership and mentoring and work in a corporate environment, is that the avoidance of pain is very much a management quality, and the seeking pleasure is very much a leadership quality. Not that it's mutually exclusive, but it's a predominant trait in a person who's trying to create a vision. They're not saying, okay, these are the 100 reasons we can't do it, right? It's the manager's role, but neither here nor there. But what I found was really nice was I saw the juxtaposition that actually, as you evolve, the welcoming of a vision of something that isn't finished, accomplished, or troubleshooted. That's not necessarily a word, but that is its own journey, which is really a hard transition for most people, because as you grow, and you start to take on responsibility, the other side kicks in, which is that in order to avoid pain, you got to get a job. In order to avoid pain, you got to get educated. You've got to make sure to get a wage, and you got to get a house, and your parents had this, so you got to have it, and on and on. So I think one thing you mentioned, I think is really an interesting and unique kind of understanding, is that the more one can transition away from avoidance of pain only, not that you don't always have that as part of your being, and shift to, hey, I'm allowing myself this possibility to seek my pleasure like you did with your music, the more one will find joy And it is a discipline because there's that nag in the back of your head that says, oh shit, what do I do about the house? And this, so there is a discipline to seeing how your brain messes with you. Sorry, that was just wanted to summarize that because it was quite a big point for me.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And that's such a good bridge that you just created into also for me to understand it deeper. Thank you.
And I think it goes without saying in every story, or nothing I'm going to say from this moment forward is new, but I thought at least it'd be nice to summarize, is that we talked about the inward and the outward journey, and that the outward journey being that what I associated with, and I say I and the big I because I have this more of idea that my projection on happiness is something that can be transient because you go to it and maybe go to Disneyland, right? As I said earlier, that was my attachment to that word. And what I thought was interesting was that when you or I or Baumbos talk about the outward journey is more or less trying to replace what's missing inward.
Yeah.
So the inward journey would then be that moment in time when we allow the time, because it takes some time, because it's like, how much quiet do you need so that you can see that you're distracting yourself? Some people might go on a 5-day silent retreat and then get in touch with every distracting idea, for instance. And that inward journey is something that I think it's so special and unique to each individual, and it's like an unending pool of discovery that is always there, but it's always easy to move away from because there's something to distract you from it. Yeah. That was sort of what I would love to take away from those two big points and things you spoke to earlier, but we didn't necessarily get into them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also had no idea how long this was, so I was just going on and on.
We go over.
You just said yes.
Yeah, we go over when it's suitable. Yeah.
Yeah, we touched upon a lot of.
I actually had a little bit, not an insight because I already know it, but I'd like to mention it. I deleted all the dating apps from my phone. I've been on dating apps for the last 3 months for the first time in my life, and it became an addiction. And yesterday I just deleted everything off my phone, and all of a sudden I created time again in my life.
Really?
Yeah, that's how much I was on it. Because you get messages, you're getting to know people, and there was a pain when I got rid of them. There was a kind of pain sitting in me, and I recognized, just hearing you speak, and I don't know what clicked, but that pain, when I felt it, I said, "It's okay for you to be there." And now hearing you speak, my ability to allow the pain to be there is also the ability of mine to feel the joy, because if I suppress the pain, I suppress the joy.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow, as I'm living my life, I'm constantly walking with these two paradoxes.
Yeah, that's what life is.
I'm sorry, I'm taking us away from this, but you had a few dating apps, not just one dating app?
Not a few.
We got to discuss off there. I thought there was only one, so now I'm really confused.
We can talk about it now, I don't mind.
Well, I mean, all I know is, I was going to say Twitter. That's how bad it is. All I know is there's the one you flip left, swipe right.
Oh,
right?
There's more than one that you swipe left and
Okay,
right.
got it. Wow.
There's spiritual singles, there's
really?
Tinder, there's Bumble, there's OkCupid.
Oh, wow, there's a lot of them there.
There's Happens.
Holy shit. How hard was it for you to get rid of Grindr?
I didn't have that one.
This is what you were speaking to earlier with my joy of our brotherly bond.
But interestingly enough, that you do know about Grindr then.
I do, because I saw Grindr the opera. I went to an opera in the UK.
Wow.
It was one of the best operas I've ever seen, actually. If you have a chance to see Grindr the opera, it is epic. It is an incredible show.
But it's not about the dating app, is it?
Yes, it is. It's only about the dating app. It's an opera about the dating app. It was so well done. It was incredible. I saw it in the UK.
Wow.
We have a few comments, by the way, that would just be nice to say.
Carolina de Vlam. Do you know her?
You know Carolina de Vlam?
Not sure.
Objectively not the youngest, because it's when we said we have an older audience, but very much into a more joyful life.
Oh, that's nice. So we have people under 40. That's nice.
Including me.
Nice. And then Bolalang.
I do cry when I'm very happy.
Yes.
I trust
Yeah, Bolalang is with me on that one for sure.
And emotional people sing better than those with controlled emotions. I think it's a prerequisite, right? To be an amazing singer, to touch people, you need to be able to touch everything.
Yeah.
And what the irony on this one is that the ones that are imperfect in their singing are better. Isn't that weird to think? The people with the imperfection in their singing are the ones, because they have something that's unique and different, which makes them special. So I think that's a weird thing that a lot of people have a hard time with, is that they think the way I do it isn't what the thing that's normal or good, and therefore it is. Same with my own writing. I write and think, oh God, I write with parochial like words. So who would be that interested, right? Not thinking to myself, there's an audience that resonates with how I communicate, which is a very different way of looking at it.
Have you read this book now that we're talking?
No, I have not. What's the name of it?
The Last
Wonderful Care
and The Wounded Healer. Those are the two.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bolalang says, may I suggest a vibrator for bombos? It's less noisy than singing.
It's when I shared that I took singing classes. Thank you, Bolalang.
Thank you, Bolalang. I'm really enjoying your comments. I mean, once you mentioned in the last show that you felt that bombos was a metrosexual, I thought that was really well encapsulated most people's experiences of you.
Thank you.
So thank you for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, that's
next time we bring you on. I think we're gonna do something with singing. I sing. Yeah. Oh, we had
I think my guitar. I don't know my guitar. You probably can't see it, can you? Where is it? I can't even. Where is my guitar?
Or finding my true, like I'd like to go into a little bit of that journey on another show of finding my true passion. So what happened when because it's a scary thing. A lot of people have the fear of, I have this other life, but I want to live this life. And it's nice to hear what allowed you to have your creative life, because that isn't easy.
I think the show would be something to do with being overweight and on the stage and overcoming that.
Interesting.
Could also be fun.
So. I think so. Why? She's so past that now. I don't want to bring her back to something that she's already so past.
Shut up. Being a photographer, and I was telling someone today, there's so many women out there that no matter how beautiful they are or whatever shape their body is, it's the journey that I take them through, and every single one of them, to find that peace in their body.
Yeah. But this is a society that we live in right now, and this is also really why it's so important, why we're talking about these things and doing this work, so that we can send out a different message to the next generations. We're really co-creating a new reality in these times. So just talking about these things is opening up all these feelings, and it's not to judge, but it's like, okay, we're on the same boat, everybody. We're all in this big sea boat. And it's true in a different way, but it's for a reason, so.
Thank you for being with us.
Love you.
Thanks, guys. Have a beautiful evening there.
You too. Thank you. Bye, Jennifer.
Bye.
Hey, Bambos.
Hey, Andy.
Almost to the end of another week.
Today's Thursday.
Today is Thursday.
Tomorrow we have
Kevin Kopjak, 40 years old. He finds his birth mother and discovers a whole life history that wasn't his to have because he was raised by someone else.
Yeah, and we're going to do that, Andy, on.
I like that. Do that again. I like that when you take the control. Go ahead, do it again.
You can feel it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Andy, we're going to do that on.
I can't fake it.
Wonderful.
Bye, guys.